Hi, this is Chris Kalenda, founder of the Strategic Leaders Academy, and I'm going to discuss three things. The first one is the road to an inspiring culture, which is absolutely vital for buy-in. The second is the three core elements of buy-in. And then third are action steps that you can use to gain buy-in for new ideas and new initiatives. Let's begin. Road to an inspiring culture. An inspiring culture is based on the clarity and buy-in of your common good. Your common good consists of three main elements: your mission and vision, your goals and values, and your standards and expectations. When you want to put together an inspiring culture, you've got to have both clarity about the common good and buy-in. When you put this together in a quad chart, you get four interesting types of culture. If you are in a high clarity but low levels of buy-in culture, then you have a compliance situation. And in a compliance situation, the leaders are primarily focused down and in. They are making sure that the employees are doing their jobs and spending the vast majority of their energies in supervising. And what they're sacrificing in a compliance culture is they're not looking up and out. So they're not building relationships. They're not focused on growth. Compliance organizations are like military basic training companies. All of the drill sergeants are focused down and in, making sure that the new privates are doing their jobs. There's a lot of clarity about the common good, but there's low levels of buy-in, and that's what basic training is all about. You see compliance cultures in places like the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? Nobody is focused on the growth of the DMV, at least not the employees there. And the supervisors are there making sure that the employees are doing their jobs. In the lower left corner, when you have low levels of clarity and low levels of buy-in, this is a chaotic culture. And in a chaotic culture, it's the office alphas who are really determining who does what to whom and how things really go in the organization. So you can have all sorts of nice things printed on the walls, but what happens on the calls and what happens in the halls are far more important than anything you write on the walls. You can look at organizations like Uber in the early days with their toxic culture as an example of a chaotic culture. Many departments in the U.S. government have a chaotic culture. You have probably seen the bureaucratic slow rolling and turf battles and all of these other passive-aggressive behaviors that happen in governments and big organizations when people simply don't want to change how they're doing business. On the lower right, where you have high levels of buy-in but low levels of clarity, this is a contingent culture. And in a contingent culture, you have a set of founders and partners who all have this symbiotic relationship. They've probably worked together for a really long time. They know how one another thinks. And because of that, they don't have to write down those elements of their common good because they're already bought in. They have this implicit understanding that they don't make explicit. And this works perfectly fine for a lot of small businesses until they either lose some of those founding members and partners or they try to scale. And when that happens, when the contingent culture gets watered down, that implicit understanding of the common good gets watered down, then you begin to backslide towards chaotic. So a lot of organizations that seek to grow through acquisition, SPACs, this is the big problem with so many SPACs, where everything gets watered down and suddenly you are in a chaotic situation. Finally, where we want to be, of course, is in the upper right. And this is an inspiring culture. an inspiring culture, we've got high degrees of clarity on the common good and lots of buy-in. What happens is the employees, the people on your team, are doing the right things the right ways without you having to watch. And the leaders can focus up and out. They can focus on strategy, they can focus on growth, they can focus on the things that are going to create sustainable success within the organization and not simply rely on the ways that we've always done business. Complacency is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. Because when your adversaries are innovating or situations are evolving, then you are simply falling further and further behind. And this is why complacency often kills. When you have an inspiring culture where leaders are able to look over the horizon, able to look beyond the 5-meter target, and focus on strategy and growth, is where you get sustainable success. The second topic we're going to cover today are the 3 elements of buy-in. So let's go to the whiteboard again. 3 elements of buy-in are these. The first one is your common good. Your organization is better off by taking a certain initiative, by pursuing a certain strategy, by instituting a certain policy. So that policy, that strategy, that idea, that initiative is in the common good. It helps the company be better off. The second element is self-interest, in that the people who are involved in the change, the people who are involved in the new direction, see it as in their self-interest to support it, that they are better off with this new direction, with this new initiative, than they were with the old ways of doing business. And we've all seen situations in which a change was probably in the common good, but people didn't see it as in their self-interest. And when people don't see change within their self-interest, then you see the slow rolling, the bureaucratic behaviors, the passive-aggressive turf battles, and all of these other challenges that prevent organizations from changing. The third element is accountability. What are the consequences for doing things right? And what are the consequences for non-compliance, for not following the new direction? So those 3 elements: the common good is better off, the individuals involved are better off, and there is accountability for positive and negative performance. And you've got to have all 3 to have buy-in. So let's label these intersections 1, 2, 3, and blue marker for 4. If you are in intersection 1, where a new initiative or direction is in the common good, and there is self-interest, people involved see it as they're better off too, but there's no accountability, then what you are likely to get is backsliding. You may have a situation in which people believe that the organization is playing favorites or being inconsistent in enforcing the rules, both positively and negatively, and the result is people begin to lose faith. If you are in intersection number 2, where it's in the common good and there's clear accountability, but people don't see themselves as better off, there's no self-interest, then you are going to get a compliance situation. And in a compliance situation, of course, people are going to do the minimum just to get by. They're going to do the minimum to stay out of trouble, maybe do the minimum to get the carrot and avoid the stick, but you're not going to get people taking initiative. You're not going to get people seizing opportunities for growth. And if you're in intersection number 3, where people see themselves as better off and there's accountability, but people don't see them benefiting the common good, then you're going to get selfishness. Because oftentimes those accountability measures are going to be instituted by the office alphas and not by the company. So you're going to get very selfish behavior on the part of office alphas, and the company is not going to be better off. Of course, where you want to be is in intersection 4, where all three come together, and that is where you have buy-in. People see the new direction, the new initiatives as in the good of the whole. They see themselves as better off, and they know that there are consequences for both the positive and the negative. A really good way to use this Venn diagram is to ask yourself, where are we with these new changes and new initiatives? Which intersection are we in? And what are the action steps that we can take to put us into intersection number 4? The third topic is creating the action steps to increase buy-in for new ideas and new initiatives. The action steps begins, of course, with clarity. And one of the best ways to ensure that you've got clarity for whatever guidance or instructions that you want to give is the following formula: X so that Y. So X, what is the task that we want to do? What is the new orientation that we want to make? And then using the words so that, which are two of the most powerful words in the English language when it comes to helping people to understand how they're better off. So we're going to do X so that Y, and Y is the results and outcomes that we want to get. So we're going to move in this new direction. We're going to institute this new policy so that you get these results and outcomes. And going back to our previous discussion, when you can describe the so that's in terms of what is in the collective interest or in the common good and how it helps the people involved be better off, then you've got a very powerful so that. You've got very powerful clarity for this guidance. So it all begins with the clarity and the guidance. And then the next step is a readback. Information sent and transmitted is often not the same information received. And so the readback is just a great way to make sure that the guidance that you've given and the instructions that you've provided are understood by the receiver. And you can ask simple questions like, tell me in your own words what this guidance means to you. Tell me in your own words what you need to do. Tell me in your own words your initial thoughts about this new direction and the sorts of resources and support that you're going to need to be successful. Those sort of open-ended questions. Avoid the yes-no questions because everybody will answer yes if they understand it. But those sort of open-ended questions that ask what and why are going to help you determine if the messages that you've sent are the same ones that have been received. And this, of course, is going to help avoid the challenge of people going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction. The third step is a game plan. When people feel that they own the solution to the problem, they own the solution to the challenge, they own the plan for moving forward, they are much more likely to have buy-in. So when you communicate the what and the why, and you leave the how to the people who are going to be implementing, then you have a much higher degree of ownership at the pointy end where execution really counts. So this third step is vital. Ask your subordinate, talk me through your game plan of how we're going to make this happen. Talk me through your game plan or how you are going to institute this sort of change within your department. If it's something complex, maybe you give them 24, 48, 72 hours. If it's something rather simple, maybe it's just part of this initial conversation. But hey, talk me through your game plan. How do you see this working? How are you going to implement it? And then finally, as they're providing you with the game plan, ask them what resources and support they are going to need to be successful. Too often, organizations will just simply say, make it happen, but aren't providing the resources, guidance, and support for their subordinates to be successful, and their subordinates feel like they've been hung out to dry. So having the subordinate talk about their game plan, and then you making sure that you understand what resources and guidance they believe that they need to be successful, and providing that resources and support are going to be vital to the successful implementation of this new direction of policy or initiative. And then finally, the cycle continues. So through your in-progress reviews, you'll revisit the so that's, the results and outcomes that you want to achieve, get them to read back, have your subordinates offer their game plan if there needs to be adjustments, and you make sure that they have the resources and guidance and support that they need to be successful. And if we do those things, if we take these action steps, the levels of ownership, the quality of execution, and the levels of buy-in are going to skyrocket for any new change initiative or policy that you have.